Hello, and welcome to the Enterprise Automation Excellence Podcast, hosted by Enterprise Management Associates. As a leading IT analyst firm, we provide deep insights across IT and data management technologies. In this podcast, we explore how automation drives business processes, analytics, development, and infrastructure. Join hosts Dan Twing and Tom O'Rourke as they discuss the evolving automation landscape, share strategies to optimize your tools, and guide strategic decisions for your automation portfolio. Now, let's dive into the world of automation excellence.
Hello, and welcome to the Enterprise Automation Excellence Podcast. I'm Dan Twing, and I'm here with my co-host Tom O'Rourke. And today we're continuing with part 2 of a 2-part topic on product thinking for automation. So in the last episode, we talked about understanding product thinking and kind of what it means and some of the ways that product managers approach understanding customers and problems and getting all that to fit. So how do you bring that to bear to automation is what we're going to talk about today, applying that product thinking. Tom, this was your brainchild. Why don't you talk about what those benefits are? We talked about product thinking. Now let's talk about actually applying it directly to automation.
Right. To recap in this, we talked about product thinking constituting taking a customer or user-focused view on the solutions that we are looking to go and automate. And where we finished up in the prior episode was talking about the automation team's set of products and services that would need to go and serve the entire set of customer segments in the organization. So now going and taking it further, let's talk about this set of products really as a portfolio. Product management brings us additional frameworks that we can use to look at a portfolio. And, as a reminder, there are slides available to go along with this. I'm currently looking at slide 14. How do you manage automation as a product? Well, as a portfolio, it can include the automation software, the automation integrations, APIs, 24/7 operations, support services, the things that you do through your set of automation products and services to help the business and customers, but also acknowledging that automation is just an element of the overall technology infrastructure platform. In fact, it probably has dependencies on other elements within the platform. And we're not going to get into those dependencies here today, but we do need to acknowledge that they exist. So pulling it all together, we started out by talking about treating automation as a product, and now we're taking the next step and saying, look at all the items that you offer as a portfolio. Well, moving on to slide 15, now we're going to talk about a few of the elements of how looking at this as product starts to give you the tools to be able to go and manage all of this. And I'm going to highlight two pieces in this. First, I'm going to use a fancy word and call it curation, how you select and organize the services that are going to be made available to the organization. I will say that the number one element of that, it is on the automation team to determine what automation capabilities you will and will not offer. You may have one automation software product, or you may have multiple. Just because you have that product doesn't mean that you need to offer all of the capabilities of that product to your organization. If there is a way already to go and to solve customer problems through a jobs as code type mechanism, then you might not also need to open up APIs to developers if the functionality that's offered, that you're being asked for through the APIs is redundant to what the jobs as codes capability. The second piece of all of this is balancing what's in the portfolio with the requests for specialized services. We talked in the last episode about how you need to operate in a business context, and particularly, your budget, your headcount. As you put on the product hat, in addition to the other hats that you're wearing, you need to figure out when you can accept these requests for specialized services and when you may need to steer people to other parts of what you offer, or tell them that they're on their own with all of that. And then the last piece of this is managing the portfolio lifecycle to maintain reliability and security. It's really, really hard to stay up to date on all of the products that you are using. And it's really, really hard to be on unsupported or nearly unsupported versions of all of those products. So a part of what you need to do, looking at the set of products that you're offering, the services that you're offering, is recognizing and building into your plans the regular upgrades, the regular maintenance, in order to stay in that safe zone between a product that is just released and maybe too early to go and take into critical environments, and it's too old to be able to go and find anybody who can help you when you have a problem to fix it. The other tool in all of this is communication. Starting to build up the capabilities so that you can communicate what is being offered in terms of your automation and products and services. Talking about success stories, steering people to the ways that they can ask for help for your team, because ultimately you are looking to make sure that your automation is maximizing the business impact that it can have, and you're not going to get there without communicating out to the organization what you're offering.
And Tom, it may not completely be up to the automation team what they're offering. Their mandate for their team may be somewhat predefined. And in some ways, it might be a little bit like talking to a board of directors when you're managing an actual product that was being sold and released, in that if you're getting a lot of requests that you just don't have the resources to meet, that's an upward conversation, right?
Yes.
Should this legitimately be added to what we're doing? And will we get funding to achieve that? Or do we somehow let the business folks know that is not going to be met here? And that's going to get a little more complicated within whatever the org structure is for your company. But you may not have complete freedom to add or subtract things. In many cases, you're going to have somewhat of a mandate handed to you that you have to balance, and then go to bat to get more resources when you have users who have interesting problems you'd love to solve, but don't yet have the right tools to do so.
Yeah, to channel Bob Dylan, everybody's got to serve somebody.
Yeah, I love that song, by the way.
So yes, this is a super difficult conversation to have with management when you are talking about it simply in the we need more resources. A much more productive conversation when you can talk about this in the context of the business impact that you're having. In order to bring new things in, it may be time to retire old products. Moving that from discussion of, well, that department doesn't want to move off the product. They're busy with something else, to we have the ability to support 5 units of automation products. And if you want to add a new unit in, then this is the weakest or the one that is providing us the least value. So that's the one that we have to find a way to go and drop. And in a slide that we will get to, we can talk about the way to frame this, to take this conversation all the way up to talk with your chief financial officer, who has input on everything that involves how money gets shifted from one part of the organization to the other. So next, I'm going to introduce strategy. Once you've started to build your catalog of products and services, you understand what your priorities are and what you need to go and do at this point in time. The next step is to be able to start to look forward. How do I get to the end of this quarter? How do I get to the end of the year? How do I start thinking about the budgeting cycle, which is going to begin in 2 months? Because automation is forever. And once you have your snapshot view, it's time to start thinking about how is this going to evolve over time? Well, strategy is a really fancy word. And in many big organizations, it gets further turned into a big word by going and hiring consultants to come in and help the organization build a strategy. And that's great. And that may be a needed function. But, at the bottom line, strategy is really just a plan. It is the reason for a strategy is understanding you have change and what needs to be created, fixed, or replaced. What you're going to build out of that is where you want to get to, your target state, the vision for where you want to go. And now, even if this is, a one-page list of bullets, getting to the place where this strategy is something that you can go and you can share with your boss and their boss, you can share with your stakeholders to help you in building your roadmap, building your project and resource plan for how you're going to get from here to there, building your scorecard and metrics. That takes us back into our product view of all of this. On slide 17, product roadmaps. And this is really just how do you visualize the strategic plan? And part of this is for you and for your team. But I will say the bigger part of it, and the reason why it is worth taking some effort, putting this into a simple picture, is this is the way that you're going to sell your plan to your stakeholders, to your customers, to your management. It's how are you organizing the work that you need to do? What may be blocking work that one of your customers want to get? How do you line all of this up? The picture shows a very, very simple, I'll call this a single page view. What is already complete? In this case, I'm working from right to left. What's in progress? What's near term? And what's in the future. And if you can, as part of showing this journey, be able to take this to your management, take this to your stakeholders, the benefit to you of all of this is you are now starting to take control of your destiny.
You just caused me to have that thought. Right before you said taking control of your own destiny, I was thinking in my head about take the data pipeline problem. If you just react to what people bring you, I need help automating this or that. I've gotten it this far, you kick off airflow, what have you. You're reacting to a lot of different things that all might be chasing a similar problem. Whereas if you get ahead of it and understand the problem and bring a more packaged way, a standard best practice way in your org about how to deal with that. And let's say we're talking, data pipelines, for example. If you do a better job of advanced packaging, here's how we approach data pipelines, here's the tools at your disposal, you're going to get less radical things showing up at your doorstep because you've got ahead of it and you've given them a pathway for a need that you anticipated before they asked instead of reacting after they ask. And I think that's what puts you in the driver's seat.
Yeah, and I will say that this is a tool of being effective as a leader. You are, by putting this picture together, you are taking the high ground. At the end of the day, it is just a picture. It is not the full project plan, which in order to go and retire a legacy product, because you have other departments who are involved and they need to fit it into their own timelines, That may be a 12 or 18-month project that fits inside of the plan. But if you can show that here is where this sits in our current work and here is when we expect to complete it, then again, you own the high ground in all of this. But the other piece of this is to recognize that roadmaps are going to evolve over time as you learn from executing them. And as you learn from talking to others, as you talk to your customers and stakeholders, as you talk with your management, as you learn about new business initiatives, the roadmaps are going to be updated. And you can say, here was the roadmap that we had when we started this quarter. And here's where we are today because of this new business initiative to go and merge Acme, who we just acquired, into our technology infrastructure. And so moving on to slide 18, developing strategy and building that out into a roadmap is an iterative process. Planning is an iterative cycle, and it doesn't have to be done on an annual or every decade basis. You can do it on a quarterly basis. You can make simple changes on a monthly basis. The stages are moved from identifying at this time, here are the most important problems we need to solve. There are 5 of them. 4 of them we already have in the roadmap. Well, guess what? We're going to need to update the roadmap in order to figure out where that 5th one fits in. And then through that, how do we move that to make sure if it's a new technology, that the technology is going to work as we need it. You update the strategy, you update your roadmap and plan, you communicate, you syndicate, and you get approvals in all of this. And then you're back to executing the plan. In the meantime, you continue to go and collect issues and identify opportunities to go and take all of this forward. So moving on to slide 19. So now let's talk a little bit about coming back to product thinking. How do you get started? In all of this, if you're starting where you don't have any of this today, then a pilot, some low-hanging fruit, would be a fabulous place to go and to try this and to see how it's going to fit in your organization, to use this as a learning process. And the steps for piloting are common to piloting in general. Identify that candidate feature or service. Figure out who from your team or from outside the team is going to work on it. Set goals, set a duration. Get stakeholder and management buy-in. Communicate. Go in and do it, get feedback, assess the results, and communicate again. Share the results with the management, with your stakeholders, and the organization. And, there are many, many examples in all of this. Piloting could be going and providing a group of business users with access to your automations and dashboards and alerts where they didn't have it before. Or it could be, rather than receiving developer questions randomly, having the 2 people on your team who are best able to support developers to set up office hours, that Tuesday and Thursday from 11 to 12:30, Sue and John are going to be available, an open Zoom call or in room 301 or whatever. That's a viable pilot. That can tell, going and trying that can help you figure out if maintaining that, continuing to do that would remove friction between the development team and the automation team and reduce a lot of the noise that has your manager feeling very, very frustrated at times. Or, you could go and internally try out an AI tool to review and improve the user documentation that you offer so that you can better serve your customer. What the pilot is going to be is going to depend on your organization, but start with something small. Go and try it out. And if you don't succeed, determine, did we not succeed because of product thinking? Did we not succeed because, we just happened to choose the wrong pilot? Maybe your organization is not going to be a place to do product thinking, but more likely than not, you're going to find out that you have a little success here and you're going to start to build up demand from your stakeholders and your customers. Hey, can you do this in this other place? And that will let you take a set of small steps toward taking your whole portfolio and shifting it into product thinking.
So, Tom, we've kind of gone back and forth a couple times about your next topic on investing in automation.
Yes.
We've kind of raised that, but you kind of have a formal thought about how to get the resources needed to achieve all of these things that you're identifying as customer needs.
Yes. And I am confident that if you try product thinking, you're going to discover that it is worth the effort to adopt and that you will be able to get your management support in doing it. I am also very confident that whether you succeed with product thinking or not, you are going to confront a place where some of the things that you need to do with automation are going to require additional funding. So now I'm going to go back to my experiences before I was head of product, where I was working in the enterprise and I was running an infrastructure, engineering, and operations team. Is that some of the things that I learned to help make sure that budget requests succeed. So, with product thinking or without, let's talk about this. You're going to need more funding, or you're going to need more headcount at some point, because you are going to be asked to do more. Every budget cycle brings more requests for funding and headcount than the organization can afford. All the requests for new funding are evaluated based on the need, the cost, the likelihood of success against the business value and the impact of results. And automation investments that drive business growth will create new opportunities that will have greater chance of approval. So how do they look at your requests? Well, there are 3 buckets that things are going to be slotted into, and this is using a strategic value assessment framework from Gartner called defend, extend, or upend. So defend are the things that give you incremental improvement or operational efficiency. They hit regulatory requirements. They're marginal gains. They're not going to be a big deal. If your requests fit into that bucket, you should be prepared to figure out how you're going to do it without more money or more headcount. That's a really tough place to be. The second place is where what you're doing is going to provide the business with a competitive advantage, the ability to grow the business in terms of its market size, its customer reach, the revenue or profitability. Maybe that's figuring out how to support automation for the business units in South America, where you're going to pick up new users who speak Spanish or Portuguese. But the business opportunity around all of this may make it worthwhile. Or you need to go and clone your automation services to run in another time zone. You're going to need to pay for additional infrastructure, additional tools. Those can fall into the extend category where they help the business grow. And then the last category are the places that automation can help create new markets and products. This is where it is a game changer, investing in order to upend the market, to take the business into a new place. And I will say that proportionally over the years, 80% of the requests that you're going to need to make are going to probably fall into that first category, where there's incremental improvements, there's operational efficiency, or there's a regulatory driver for doing it. But it's the other 20% where you can really have a big impact on the business. We've talked here about starting to frame things in terms of focusing on the problems to be solved. The next is to understand what the customer is doing well enough that you can go prioritize your work based on the business value that the customer is achieving. And then managing automation as a set of products and services that focuses on customer needs and value. You want to own your automation strategy. To get there, though, you're going to need to change the way that you are operating the automation team, moving from a reactive or a semi-reactive model into a place where you own where you're going is a change to your operating model. And then the last piece is when you better understand what the customers are trying to accomplish, you can take your team's skills and expertise and transform automation to a value generator. Dan, I'll let you do the wrap-up slide from Elon.
Well, you picked another good quote, and I get to be the one to say it. That's great. And I've seen this quote before too, but it's really appropriate here. So Elon Musk said, anybody could make the Model T. Not everybody could make River Rouge, the factory they made it in. The factory is going to be the product or innovation that has a long-term sustained competitive advantage. So it wasn't so much that anyone could have come up with the car. The process was really the difference. And maybe the point you're making there is that the process to how you would decide how to deliver value to stakeholders is more important even than some of the individual capabilities.
I've included a slide pointing to some of the resources that I use to build all of this. There are some links there if you want to go and dive in deeper. Dan, any last words?
I think it's interesting to think about how you could get ahead of requests and be a little more purposeful in how you drive automation forward in your organization. I think it's great content. Thanks, Tom.
I am working on putting together a half-day course to dive further into product thinking, expanding all of this out, the 45 minutes that we've talked about, into a half a day, more detail, more automation examples. The first training session will be free. It will be this summer. It's going to be limited to 20 participants. You can think about this as the beta version of the course. If you're interested in this, email us at eaepodcast@emausa.com, and we'll put you on the notification list. The EAE podcast homepage is at em360tech.com. Syndication, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Amazon Music and Audible, iHeart and Deezer. Questions and comments, email us or connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Dan and Tom, for your insights on today's topic, and thanks to our listeners for joining the Enterprise Automation Excellence podcast. If you're a technology or operations leader looking to enhance your automation strategy, stay connected for more expert insights. Visit enterprisemanagement.com to learn how EMA can support your automation initiatives and check out more episodes for in-depth discussions and industry trends.